What's up, YouTubers? Welcome to Makeup Geek 1021. I'm Danielle. Today we are going to be going over the history of Madelyne Pryor, the Goblin Queen, one of my favorite X-Men villains, ex-wife of Cyclops, biological mother of Nathan Summers, and the genetic clone of Jean Grey. Madelyne first gets introduced to us as a woman mistaken for Jean Grey, the late girlfriend of Scott Summers, due to her looking exactly like Jean. However, what is suspicious about her is the fact that her mind is completely closed off from Professor Charles Xavier's telepathy. She survives a mysterious plane crash that occurs at the exact moment Jean Grey commits suicide on the moon at the hands of the Shi'ar Empire. We learn Madelyne is cloned from Jean's DNA by Nathaniel Essex, Mr. Sinister, because he believes that Scott and Jean's offspring is the key to become a perfect weapon to fight Apocalypse, one of the first mutants on Earth. Mr. Sinister creates Madelyne due to Jean being underneath the control of the Dark Phoenix Force, which makes her extremely unstable and volatile. Mr. Sinister is disappointed that Maddie doesn't develop mutant powers at puberty like most mutants do, and leaves her in a test tube, deeming her to be a failed experiment and a mistake. However, after Jean's sacrifice, the powers of the Phoenix accidentally transfers to Maddie due to Jean having been rejecting its powers. Now, this does grant Madelyne a life force as well as some of Jean's memories. Soon enough, Madelyne meets Scott when he is in Alaska. This is part of Sinister's plan to make Scott fall in love with Maddie due to her having a personality so strikingly similar to his deceased lover Jean, knowing that that's a personality that Scott likes. The two eventually get married, and shortly after Scott retires from the X-Men, Madelyne is given a series of mystical powers after she and Scott face a confrontation with Loki, which allows her to virtually heal any illness or injury, and these newfound powers, Madelyne manages to hold back her husband's optic blast, which, if any of you know anything about that thing, it's a real bitch to hold back and control. It is during this incident that Madelyne tells Scott she's pregnant. Scott eventually returns to the X-Men upon learning of Magneto joining. It is during this time Maddie feels he is drifting apart from her, and she eventually gives birth to her and Scott's son, Nathan Christopher Charles Summers, while in the kitchens of the Xavier Institute. When Scott and Storm duke it out for a leadership position on the X-Men, Maddie uses her powers to allow Storm to win the battle and convinces Scott to move back to Alaska with her, but this is part of her subconsciousness that Mr. Sinister has implanted in her to make it easier to kidnap Madelyne and Scott's baby boy. Madelyne and Scott's marriage becomes strained as Scott continues missing Jean and desiring to be back with her. Maddie is devastated by this because Scott married her mostly because she resembles the woman that he still deeply loves. When the real Jean returns, Scott leaves Maddie and baby Nathan, even though Madelyne makes it very clear that if he walks out that door, he wouldn't be welcomed back at home anymore. Maddie and baby Nathan are eventually kidnapped by Mr. Sinister's marauders, who intend on killing her, but she manages to defend herself with her latent psychic abilities, and she is placed in a hospital as a Jane Doe, with Mr. Sinister erasing any existence of her ever, even being known. Over the years, Maddie's bitterness towards Scott abandoning her has led to her making many horrible decisions. She eventually meets a group of demons who enhance her abilities, which allows for her to summon goblins and monsters, and she reinvents herself as the Goblin Queen, determined to take down Jean Grey, whom she blames for her messed up life. She's joined the Sisterhood of Mutants, and pretty much the last we've seen of Madelyne Pryor is when she goes into partnership with Hellfire Club Black Queen Selene to form a newer Sisterhood of Mutants. Alright everyone, that's my video covering the origins of Madelyne Pryor. Let me know in the comments below what other supervillain or superhero origins you'd like to learn about next time, and I will talk to you all soon.